This show is proudly brought to you by the #Me Network. Access granted.
Kia ora and welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in to our episode number 21 of Access Granted, our weekly Kiwi tech and media podcast. I'm Raj, my background's in film and media and design and tech.
And I'm Mike, and my background is information wrangling, connecting people and change management. You're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech or media in New Zealand.
This week we're going straight into our interview with the guys from Yammer. We met Yammer at Tech Ed a few weeks ago. So Fid McAwesome, Mike and I had a good catch up with them, and they were an acquired business from Microsoft, so they were not an internal team, and so they bring a unique perspective of the whole Microsoft ecosystem. So here it is, enjoy.
We're here with Mark and Luke from the Yammer division of Microsoft. I'll get you guys to give yourself a bit of an introduction on who you guys are and what your backgrounds are.
Yeah, so my name is Luke Grange, and I'm based out of Melbourne, Australia. But I work like a network, which means that there are 61 of us, including Mark, who's here, customer success managers, and we work out loud, and as such are able to get a lot done. And we'll go into a little bit of that during this conversation, I think.
I'm Mark Woodrow. I'm also a customer success manager in Australia, New Zealand, and we, as Luke says, we work as part of a global team, and essentially, like the title suggests, to help customers be successful with Yammer and other tools.
Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know, because some aren't immersed completely in the Microsoft ecosystem, how does Yammer fit into the whole suite?
So Yammer was started in 2008 as an enterprise social cloud-based service, which was bought by Microsoft, I think, about 20 months ago, and acquired, if you like. And so we still have a development team and a Yammer team, but that's been integrated, if you like, to Office 365. And now, if you get Office 365, Yammer is part of that package.
Yeah, that's with the enterprise suite.
That's right,
That's
with
right.
the enterprise suite E3.
Now, we were just asked by an IT guy that I actually work with whether Yammer will ever become a lot more closer connected with Office 365, where it's going to use the same authentication and all that.
Yeah, so currently we do have the option to sync it with Active Directory and to have single sign-on. But not all of our customers have taken that up as an option. But if that's the case, then basically they use the same password as they use to log into their work and their Office 365 as they use to log into Yammer. The other parts of where Office 365 and Yammer are becoming very closely knit is around things like documents. So if you've created a PowerPoint presentation in Office 365, people can have a conversation around that document, and that'll surface in Yammer.
Right. So is that how you see Yammer sort of integrating and working day to day with the rest of the suite? So it's not, people have told me it's basically Facebook for work. Is that where it's sitting, or is it got more, a bit more in the plan for? Is there another plan for Yammer?
I think broadly Yammer the core of what is Yammer will remain, because it's something that people find easy to use as a communication network, and so in that way it will work like other social network tools. It will make it easy for you to connect with other people. In its longer-term plan, I think it's fair to say that Yammer's the sort of preferred social collaboration tool in the suite. So there is elements within SharePoint Online and other parts of the suite, but Yammer, if you like, is what will sort of connect in terms of a social point of view. But the advantage is that we'll increasingly be able to integrate the actual documents or what you're actually collaborating with.
Will it also tag in elements of link so that you've got that communication tool built in, or is Link going to stay separate to the Yammer?
I'd say...
You know, how some of the others are a bit merged together, you know.
Yeah, look, there is talk on the wire that is the case, that you'll be able to access Link from within Yammer, but that might be Sky. We don't really know exactly what, but Microsoft is trying to consolidate some of the tools that are overlapping.
Yeah. Can I say that also the way things are moving is what people also find easy and want to use? I think that the stage when organisations just gave people software to use, IT to use, it's sort of changed now. We notice with Yammer that what happens is it sort of starts off with an organisation and they find it easy and they refer their colleagues and they refer their colleagues, and suddenly you've built a network that's very easily, and that's the way. While people find Yammer easy to use and like using it, then they will. If they find something else and they find it easier to collaborate with another element, then they'll gravitate towards that. So just it's not something that we're going to impose the Microsoft plan for, but it's actually it's what people actually find the most productive in their workplace.
Do you have any tips and tricks for companies out there who have got Yammer but are finding it hard getting existing staff members to move over to using that rather than sending an email to everyone in the company or whatever?
Yeah. So I say one of the most important things is to try and get senior management to adopt the tool itself, and some of that comes along from education. So actually sitting and nurturing the CEO and showing him exactly what this is, and then helping him post his first post is obviously a really important thing.
It's like sitting down with Nana and teaching you how to use Facebook.
Sometimes it does feel a little bit like that, but what I would say is one of the tips around that is teach the CEO how to delete a message.
They're not so scared of it.
No, they won't be as scared of it. You won't find necessarily that they will delete it, but at least if they know how to, they tend to post a lot more.
Okay.
And if your CEO really gets into Yammer, then she might also be responding to other people's conversations. I think that's the thing about the other tip about Yammer is it is quite democratic in that it gives everyone a voice, and so smart managers will actually be also contributing to the conversation and the ideas of others.
Do you find in companies that have implemented it well, it's taken off better because you've had more upper level management actually socially using it and talking with other staff members and stuff like that?
Well, I would say that the real nirvana for people that want success with social enterprise or Yammer is to achieve both. If you get senior level management engaged and employees across the board engaged, you've got a really active network. You can have one where it's bottom up and it organically grows and can be quite successful. And we've seen examples where we've got executive sponsored at a senior level really push Yammer hard and that works. That can work well. But you only really get at what we would consider a healthy network if you've got a true two-way communication going on.
Where do you think Yammer does sit in the growth of Microsoft at the moment? Like you alluded to earlier, there seems to be a big push at the moment to the Skype side of things, moving messaging and all that all over there. Is this going to have an effect on Yammer in the future?
Sorry, while you were actually asking that question, I sort of took a little piece of it, and I would like to just address that, is that the culture at Yammer is something that Microsoft looked at, I think, and saw as a culture that was about doing, a culture about communicating and communicating effectively and early and often. And I think they have held Yammer up to a certain degree and pointed the rest of Microsoft at it and said, you guys, if you can behave a little bit more like that and be a bit more like that, that's the more agile approach of the future of work. So they do look to the way that Yammer worked as a future of work and using those tools. So a lot of what we do at Microsoft now is we have groups in Yammer around a particular big customer, be it Telstra, Coles, National Australia Bank or whatever, and the account team work in that group and work out loud and are much more effective as a result.
Yes, I was going to ask if there are case studies or examples you can give, and that's pretty good. Yeah. How an organisation can use it. Yeah, because I am at one that use Yammer, and it's more about posting about what's happening within the social side of things rather than and if you here's the profit loss, something like this happened, got a new client. But I want to know if we can push it and use it a bit more effectively instead of just email all over the place.
Yes, and that's the company I work with is to the extreme level of everybody's got Yammer available, and I think there's like 5 people who are actively using it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So there's the 99-1 principle. So if you want to bet like a starting benchmark, you'll get 1% of people that are actively posting, which is great. 9% that were commenting and really interacting, and then you'll also get 90% that are, we can consider them lurkers, but they're actually taking in that information, they're following those conversations, they're taking those posts, but they're not actually prepared to take that step forward. And I guess if you talk about, you actually talk about that that process to get more depth, you'll actually need to bring some of the other people on board, whether you create sort of champions of groups, you show some best practice, you have areas of practice. So Becker, an engineering company in Auckland, is very successful around. They build their Yammer groups around their various practice areas, which means that they're collaborating across the world, whether they're sort of whether building bridges or what they're doing in those practice areas. And you find people in their own areas of specialty can get really. It's a place where they can actually really work very successfully on a social network.
I'd add to that as well that different organisations have a different maturity around where they are with regards to these kinds of tools and what they're using. And Simon Terry, who actually established Yammer at the National Australia Bank, has developed what he calls the value maturity model, and it's a 4-stage model which I think depicts where an organisation may be, and it starts with connecting. So what you'll find is in an enterprise social world, people will connect individuals with other individuals. So it'll be like, is there anybody in accounts who would know about this kind of P&L? And somebody will then respond to that and say, yeah, there is somebody, his name's Mark Anthony. And that's about it. So that's sometimes where the conversation ends, and you're like, well, these threads are not going very far. This Yammer product's probably not working. But if you actually find out what's happening is that person then phoned Mark Anthony. Yeah. Or emailed Mark Anthony. So it is actually being useful. Yeah, exactly. So this connecting part then moves into sharing, where people start to share information with each other. And that's a very sort of an interesting time, because you suddenly start saying, I need a presentation, I'm going out to visit a financial institution, and it's to a marketing officer. Is there anybody who's got a presentation out there that might help me? And somebody comes through with that presentation that's going to sort of smooth the way for that organisation or that individual to get more benefit from it. So that sharing starts to come in. The next part is where we speak about solving. And that's where problems start to get solved in the enterprise solution. And this is quite a mature stage. It's where people start to fix things. Like, if you did this and this, that would solve that problem. And then somebody chimes in and says, I've actually tried that didn't work, but if you did this, so it's actually gets very mature. And then eventually the last stage that Simon talks about is innovating. So,
well, it's actually funny because I've seen this not so much like in Facebook, but like in Twitter. Quite often I've seen an issue and gone, hey, anyone know how to do this? Oh, yeah, try this. No, don't try that. Try this. Yeah. That is a completely outside enterprise, but...
Well, to be honest, it's not that different in many respects. Yeah, you've got a community. Yeah. Your community is there to help you. You've probably nurtured that Twitter community. So I think what we do find is that people who really get Twitter, that's another tip, is go to those people. Yeah. Like, they're often going to be the advocates and influencers of enterprise social.
Is there anything you're covering in the I was going to say tournament at the event that is a highlight for you guys that you're trying to get out there to educate the rest of us? What's the big thing at the moment at Yammer, basically, is what I'm asking.
Oh, there's always exciting things happening at Yammer. I mean, broadly, we still we're doing a presentation this time around the responsive org, and that's still, if you really want to talk about what we're doing, it's around helping organisations be more responsive in a very fast-moving world. Routine work is sort of diminishing. There's more automation, and employees are basically have multitasks, and they need to be empowered, if you like, to make decisions and to work more productively. And I guess that's ultimately where we like to work in that space. And Adam Pisoni, I think, a founder of Yammer, spoke on the responsive org, I think, a year ago, and we're very much trying to have that keep that conversation going, because I think ultimately that's where we see organisations heading in the future.
Yeah, so responsive org is a movement that has been kicked off, and it's moving forward. Yep. Where organisations have tended to be stuck in the paradigm of planning, and they get locked into it, where they should actually start to be thinking about experimenting to escape from that paradigm of continuous planning. Organisations are have got a lot of control. They're trying to get fixated around control, where they should actually be handing that autonomy back to their staff members and starting to trust their staff members more. And the other thing is, they tend to be a little bit more secretive. Companies need to start to learn to be more transparent. And I think that what I've just described depicts moving from an industrial age organisation to be a more responsive organisation.
I want to ask you a question, but I don't want to offend you guys. So I'm going to put it out there, and I don't mean to offend you if you take it the wrong way. As I have come across, I've heard it myself, and I want to know what your response to it would be if someone said to you that Yammer looks like you've stolen the design from Facebook.
Yeah, it's a good question.
You can see why I prefixed that, not wanting to offend you.
No, and it doesn't, to be honest. I'll tell you why. It's because Facebook does have a massive footprint on the planet. Facebook doesn't necessarily need a lot of coaching to understand exactly how to use it. And I think that's a lot of the time where people get this idea, is because when they do get into Yammer, they find it very easy to have conversations in Yammer the same way that they find it easy to have conversations in Facebook. I think, and we're finding this a lot with software, and unless you can just switch it on and it works, people don't want it necessarily anymore. And that's the case with Facebook. You log in and it works. With Yammer, you log in and it works. There's not a lot to configure.
So I can sort of add to that. I think in my experience, you'll find that Twitter and LinkedIn starts to be looking more like Facebook to a degree. Things are converging, and really all people are interested in is what's simple, clean, easy to use, which is certainly one of the things that makes Yammer successful, like the other social tools. And I guess the advantage Yammer has compared to the others is we have no advertising in Yammer. So to a degree, you're purely connecting with your employees, and you're sharing content. All you're seeing is things with the people that you're following and your employees, and that's the advantage. I would say for the user experience. I think some people in the other external social media tools are finding quite a lot of clutter in the content.
Yeah, well, just to reinforce almost what you said was, since Twitter redesigned and is looking a lot like Facebook now, a lot of people that I had trouble trying to convince them, join Twitter, it's awesome. Now all of a sudden they're adopting it because, this looks like something I know. Yeah.
No, they're continuously adding features. So I think that's something we're incredibly sensitive about at Yammer, is that we don't want to overcomplicate the user interface. We don't want to make it so that once people arrive in the user interface, they get a bit confused and they leave. So a lot of what we do is we're data driven to make decisions on what should stay and maybe what might need to leave at some point. So if there's a piece of functionality that's not being used by anybody, and we have a lot of people signing up and using Yammer. We have roughly 10,000 new customers per month signing up. That's a lot. That's companies signing up. And they drive a lot of data out into our analytics team that analyze that data and work out what's working for people and what isn't. And we're very strict about, trying to maintain what's going to be useful for our customers.
Yeah, I found that too. It's kind of weird where you log into the work Yammer homepage. You're not scrolling a lot like on Facebook, right? You just past ads, past this, past some idiot on a motorbike, whatever. You're actually looking at content straight away that you want to know. And you're in.
The only bad thing I can say about Yammer, to be honest, in my experience, is not enough cat photos.
So if you want to
Depends what firm you
include
work at, I
things,
suppose.
more cat photos,
Yeah,
yes.
that's key to the internet.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
No, I'm good. I really appreciate you guys making time for us to do this.
Yeah.
No,
Nice
it's
to
a pleasure.
chat to
Thank you for having us. And look, if there's anybody out there that would like to set up in New Zealand the responsive org and have responsive org coffees and pull responsive together as a movement, I'd really encourage you to go and search for responsive org on the internet or reach out to Mark or myself to find out more about that. But we're encouraging people to get the groups of people together and discuss what it is like to be a responsive org and hold coffee sessions.
If people just want to get hold of you guys, what's the easiest way?
The easiest way is on Yammer, of course. So if you're already a Yammer customer, we have something called the Yammer Customer Network, and you can reach us on that. So it's Mark Woodrow or Luke Grange. You can, if you go to the responsiveorg.com, you'll also you'll find what we've been talking about the responsive org, and you'll also find Mark Woodrow on Twitter and Luke Grange on Twitter as our names.
Okay.
Yeah, as our names.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. So, and as always, don't take our jibber jabber as gospel. All the links are on our Twitter feed, as you know.
That's right. So on Twitter, you can look for me at Miramar Mike, and Raj is at NZRaj, where you'll find our daily #Access Granted updates. If you're desperate to email us, by all means use accessgranted at #me.co.nz. And for all the hashtag goodness, such as updates, newses, prizes, and much more, go to the #me.co.nz website.
Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday with the Kiwi Tech News for those who make the computers do what they do. Ka kite anō.
#me.co.nz